Has anyone ever told you to never meet your heroes? That's horrible advice. I've been fortunate enough to find myself in a few different spots in life where my heroes or celebrities and I end up crossing paths. Interactions I've had with Iggy Pop, Mark Ruffalo, Ani DeFranco, Serge Ibaka, Cillian Murphy, Leslie Feist, Clyde Stubblefield, and Chloe Sevigny have all gone really, really well. In 2003, just off their comeback album, Bad Religion played a handful of shows in Western Canada that had one of the bands I was working with opening for them. After shows in Calgary and Edmonton, our van broke down on the way to Vancouver. As tour manager, scare quotes on tour manager, I delegated that the band get the van towed, and I would go to the venue to make sure that the promoter knew that we're going to be late for load-in, but we're going to be able to do a line check, the show's going to go on. The promoter didn't care about the opening band. But Brian Baker, the guitarist of Bad Religion, took the time to talk with me about what was going on. He said, "Hey, how old are you guys? 23? Josh, look, if our van broke down, we would have canceled the show." He laughed and then went on, "When I was in bands when I was younger, I never gave up either, so it's really nice to see." And I stammered, "Yeah, I know, you never gave up." Brian Baker looked at me and said, "Wait, are you one of those guys that knows more about me than I do?" And I responded, "Yes." The thing is, Brian Baker played in Bad Religion at that time, and he still does. And Bad Religion is in the conversation for the most important punk rock band ever, and also in conversation for my favorite band ever. The only reason I don't have a Bad Religion tattoo is because the bassist, Jay Bentley, told me not to do it. But Brian Baker also played in a band called Minor Threat, who are also in the same two conversations. The second tattoo I ever got was a Minor Threat tattoo. Brian Baker was also in Dag Nasty, and, I think you get it. So Brian Baker and I are sitting side stage at the Commodore in Vancouver, and now he's telling me tour stories from the last 22 years of playing in the most important punk and hardcore bands. Then, the singer of the band that I'm working with comes running into the venue to let me know that the van is fixed and they're about to load in, and about 3 meters away he realizes who I'm talking to and makes a 90-degree turn because he knows that if he interrupts this conversation, I'm gonna fucking murder him. So, meet your heroes. Not everything will go as well as the time I hung out with Brian Baker, but more often than not, especially when it comes to bar folk, if you're paying attention to all the right things, you'll probably have more in common with your heroes than you've been led to believe. I'm Josh Lindley of Bartender Atlas, and this is Branching Out. This week, you'll hear my conversation with Kevin Diedrich of Pacific Cocktail Haven in San Francisco. You may remember that Sarah Ruiz sent us his way after Kapri Robinson sent us her way. You remember that? I almost remember that. Kevin has, for as long as I've been learning about cocktails, been at the forefront of the cocktail renaissance, or whatever we're calling it. Between winning awards for excellent bar programs that he's run and never being shy about what he does, I've been following his career for a long time. Finding videos of Kevin making drinks online is super easy, and I've been watching him do so for about 15 years. Saying I was nervous talking to him doesn't feel right, though, because I know better than to worry about meeting your heroes. Besides, in both punk rock and bar life, the whole point is that there are no heroes, there's only peers with different or more experience than you. Please enjoy my talk with Kevin Diedrich on Branching Out. Dear Kevin Diedrich, I'm happy to have you on Branching Out, and rather than reading a bio that I never asked you to write, could you tell us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I guess first off and foremost, my name is Kevin Diedrich, and I'm the owner and operator of Pacific Cocktail Haven in San Francisco. I've been bartending 25 years. I jokingly say now that I continue to get older, but the bartenders keep getting younger. Mm-hmm. And it's true. I have bartenders now that are, one of them told me the other day that that I am older than they are. I've bartended longer than they've been alive, but that is my calling, is bartending. I always say that I'm a bartender first and an owner second. I've gotten to my career span, and I've gotten very lucky to bartend from, I grew up in D.C., Northern Virginia, D.C., so I went from D.C., San Francisco, back to D.C., to New York City, back to San Francisco. My career's spanned from fine dining to five-star hotels to tiny little speakeasies. I worked at PDT and Clover Club in New York City under the guidance of Jim and Julie, and amazing, talented bar teams from there. And then I helped open Bartender branch here in San Francisco back in 2005, ran their beverage academy there, helped Michael Mina open a cocktail bar here, and then went back to DC to help open Bourbon Steak in the Four Seasons there. And then eventually ended up dating who is my wife now that we've been married 16 years. And she lived in Europe, and I moved to New York to be with her and got lucky and fortunate to work with Jim and Julie. And then I moved back to San Francisco in hopes to getting to Hawaii because my wife is from Hawaii, to move there. And then, as she liked to say, we got stuck here in San Francisco, or I kidnapped her. And since then, I've been working for Kimpton, and I got to open PCH back in late 2015, early 2016. There's quite a story of the dates and how many dates we have for PCH, but we celebrate 10 years this year. June 20th would be our 10-year anniversary, but we kind of took over this old space back in 2015 in December. But long and short is I'm a bartender through and through, and that's what I enjoy to do.
So first of all, congratulations on 10 years.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I've never celebrated any milestone, and if I had it my way, I wouldn't celebrate 10 because I think every day I get to celebrate, and we get to celebrate what we do. But I've gotten a lot of peer pressure to do something for 10, so there'll be bouncy houses and pettings due at my tenure.
I mean, I think those are two reasonable things to have at a 10th birthday party.
Yeah, I know.
Do you find
balloon animal?
Yeah. Do you find, Kevin, with everything that you've done and having 25 plus years of bartending under your belt, do you find that people pigeonhole you into one of the things that they know you from? Like, are you Kevin from PDT?
Wow, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it depends on where you found me in my career. I think in San Francisco, I think if I was still in New York, possibly, there'd be a connection with like either the Clover Club or PDT. But I think in San Francisco, it's where they probably started following or found me first, which is either like Burnt Room or Jasper's is cute, kind of like the connection. A lot of the regulars that still come see me at the bar were back from like 2010. 2010 was Jasper's, or Burnt Room is 2010, Jasper's was 2012. So yeah, a lot of them, I'd say for that fact. Yeah. But now I think a lot of it's just, unknowingly I've attached my name to my bar, which was never my intention, but this is now Kevin and PCH almost hand in hand.
The producers got very excited when I came in today and told them I was talking to you. They're sound nerds and old friends and former roommates and guys that I used to tour with band stuff years ago. But when I came in today, I told them, I was like, no, I'm very excited to talk to Kevin. I've been following you since around, 2011, 2012. And so for me, I always think of, I swear it was like a liquor.com video or something where you made this perfectly balanced cocktail and then poured orange soda on top of it. And in that moment, I was like, oh, everyone else with their twisty mustaches and their vests is taking everything so seriously, and you're pouring orange soda on top of like a perfect gin cocktail.
Yeah, I think maybe it was like cream soda or something.
Yeah,
I think
something like that.
The soda jerk, and it was like a gin fizz with like vanilla syrup, and I was just like, and I was enamored with like soda in that period of time, and I was like, oh, the soda jerk, and I was reading about like the soda book, and I think Darcy O'Neill was like soda fountains were a thing in San Francisco, and yeah, I think that's where it kind of stemmed from. But cocktails are serious, but I never took them too serious. I think drinking is meant to be fun, and you have to connect with people. And if we make drinks for ourselves, then we're just tending to ourselves. If we make drinks for the people, then there's a connection to the community and the people that you're serving.
Mm-hmm. And I know you've done a lot of talking about this already, and I swear we're here to talk about your mentors or who you're mentoring. But first I wanted to touch on AAPI Cocktail Fest. I think this is a great idea. My wife Jess and I run Bartender Atlas and therefore Toronto Cocktail Conference. So this is of particular interest to me. The podcast has become about me now. But you started your own cocktail fest specifically about Pacific Island influence on San Francisco's cocktail scene, yeah?
Yeah, I guess long and short, yeah. I mean, I think, it was quite the endeavor. But yeah, I think it all started with San Francisco not having a cocktail week. I mean, I kind of grew up in San Francisco, not grew up, but I learned a lot in San Francisco when I first moved here in 2006. And we had a cocktail week, and when I moved back in 2010 or 11, I forget, time is such a constraint, is that I think we had a cocktail week and it stopped ceasing, and it didn't exist. And then there's all these other cocktail weeks around the world, and I got to start traveling a lot for work. And I remember San Francisco a lot of the bartenders were like, why don't we have a cocktail week? Why don't we get the attention that we deserve? All these things, all these excuses. And I would hear it and everything. And I just got really tired of a lot of people talking. And I'm just a firm believer of just like, let's not talk about things. Let's just like do them. Let's put ourselves in positions and use the networks and talk to our people and relationships and create something. And no one wanted to do it. And I finally was just like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to run it through PCH. And we're just going to create something. But I wanted to refocus it on the culture. I think there's a lot of cocktail festivals that do amazing things, and they talk about the bar community and the cocktails and all the revolutionary techniques and devices out there. But for me, it's about the culture and the people. And I wanted to do something that elevated the culture within San Francisco, but just the API lens in total. And it wasn't just about the cocktails. It was about community and culture and trying to bridge this gap for us in California and San Francisco with Asia, much like how New York and the East Coast has Europe. I think there's a lot of transnational, bartenders going back and forth with Europe and New York and DC and Boston and probably even Toronto with the big French influence in Montreal. And I wanted something like that for San Francisco, and was something we had to build. But I wanted to be more focused, and API was a big thing of mine in trying to accentuate and highlight the API lens. And PCH has always been a love letter to the Asian Pacific. So trying to accentuate a little more and highlight a lot of culture, and not just the drinks, but the culture. So I think we started that, now 4 years ago. And I self-funded it the first year, which is an awful thing to do and not tell your wife. But we've now managed to get funding, and we essentially break even every single year. It's definitely not by profit and at all. I make sure we pay for all the bartender stipends, make sure they get their day rates, and make sure we take care of everyone that comes out. And if we break even, that's all that matters to me at this point.
How much time do you put into planning AAPI week every year?
More and more every year. I think the first year I planned it in 5 weeks, which is, I would never, if you want to give yourself an ulcer and stress and high blood pressure, then do it in 5 weeks. The first year was 5, and then the next year was, I think we got about 3 months. And last year we started doing it in, I think, March. And now we're actually starting to plan it and have discussions about it. I had a call yesterday about it. So we're slowly getting better and better. In the first year it was just me. And then the next year, Reese Alvarado, who used to work with us at PCH, we kind of partnered up together. He works now for Bacardi, but we still have this great relationship, great working relationship and respect for each other. And we both wanted kind of the same thing for the city. So he's been on board. So now it's just 2 of us, and we hopefully will build more people to help build it. Just because I think it takes more than just the 2 of us to see a clearer vision and have a lot more input and help it grow. Mm-hmm. But yeah, January now, we're planning this year, January. So, which is a good step forward.
That's a big head start, but you need that big head start.
Yeah. I've talked to a lot of people with their cocktail conferences, and I've gone to a lot of them, and there's a lot of work into them that goes into it, obviously, and a lot of people organizing it. And, I don't want to get huge. I still like the small intimacy that we do and how our API Cocktail Week is. But I definitely want to have more hands and more eyes and hopefully build it, and hope there's more accountability and want people to be involved with the city. And our hopes are that people want to come to San Francisco and see how amazing it is, and allow them to share their story and their culture, but allow us also to share our city and what we do with them.
Mm-hmm. So Kevin, let's we'll rein it in a little bit here, because I feel like both you and I might be pontificators. When did you decide that you were going to be a bartender, or bartender adjacent, as a career? Was there a moment where you knew this is it for me?
Yeah. So truth be told, I went to bartending school. I actually started in IT, and I went to school for IT. I grew up in Northern Virginia, DC. I ended up going to Virginia Tech, hated college, dropped out after about maybe 2 semesters, 8 months, moved back home to Northern Virginia, kind of putzed around, got some jobs, and then computers are huge then. And I kind of got into computers, and I went to a concentration school and got my certifications, and I worked in IT for about 4.5, 5 years. And it was great, and I was very driven, and I was passionate. I was geeky, building my own networks and building my own computers and doing all this stuff. And then I ended up getting a job, and my roommate, who ended up being my roommate at the time, was a DJ in in DC. And the girl I started dating was a bartender, and I started going out with them like every single night, like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and just being like, she was bartending, and my best friend was DJing. And I was like, man, this is so much fun. I was just like, I got the kind of behind the scenes thing, so I got like, I got the drink for free, hang out at the bars and nightclubs after they close, and then be in the DJ booth. So I was very spoiled, but I was just like, this is so much fun. I can't believe people are doing this. Like, you get paid to like have like play music and make drinks and take shots with people and stuff. And I got very enamored with what they were doing in the nightlife, and I loved the energy, and I loved being around people. And I started getting really bored at work, where I was like, this is like, I'm miserable now. It's like I'm just sitting at a desk. I just want to be around people and have that interaction. So much to my parents and disdain, I quit. Well, first I went to bartending school, and I told them I was going to become a bartender, and they're like, sure, we support whatever you want to do. And then I quit my job without getting a job, which is where they kind of were just like, are you crazy? What are you doing? And I was like, no, I'm going to get a bartending job. And I tried getting a bartending job, and no one would hire me because I had zero experience. So I actually had to lie on my resume, like much like everyone does, to get their first job. I asked my girlfriend's bar manager at the time to say that I worked for him for 5 years, and he's like, sure. And then I got a job at the Ritz-Carlton as my first job. But that was the moment right there. I'd say the moment was hanging out in these nightclubs, in the bar atmosphere, and just being like, I want to be in this. I want to have fun. I want to be around these people that are all having like this energy and having drinks, and this community, and everyone going out, the promoters, being able to skip the line, being able to talk to people, and just like all these people from different walks of nature coming in this one place, and they're having fun. And I was like, this is what I want to do, is bartend. And, I think that's what stemmed bartending, and then obviously cocktailing happened much later. But that was like me for bartending, was that energy and the fun and the people.
So I don't want to downplay the energy of serving people and being in a room with people who come from everywhere, and you get to interact with everybody. But do you think maybe a small percentage of the reason you lost interest in your IT job is because you were just a little hungover?
I mean, truth be told, I did have a lot of hangovers, a lot of throwing up in the car, in the bathroom, and my bosses asking me if I needed help or what was wrong with me. But yeah, I mean, I think there was eventual I gravitated to wanting to be in the bars and the nightclubs. But being hungover it was part of life. I mean, in the IT days, you would go to happy hour and you'd drink, and then you'd wake up the next day. But obviously, I wouldn't be going out till like 4:00 in the morning. But I think but the lifestyle gravitated to me, and that's kind of what was in that period of my life, being 22, 23, was like, this is fun. I want to have fun, and you're making money at the same.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that your IT background helps you with anything, OS machines, or does it figure into anything you do at any point now?
I mean, technology has come a long ways since I've been in IT, but I think still like the analytical sense of like troubleshooting something if it doesn't work, it still holds true. I mean, you could do pretty much anything. You'd be like, if it doesn't work, turn it off, and then wait 30 seconds and plug it back in. I think, but there's like an analytical thing where like make sure it's plugged in, make sure the network cables, make sure like there's a lot of little troubleshooting things that I used to work a IT help desk as one of my jobs in IT. So there's still that analytical sense, but if you ask me to build a network or do something outside of that, good luck. I could build it maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah. In the lead up to this call, I emailed you and I asked you to think of 3, 4, 5 people or books or drinks or blogs or whatever that really inspired you to get into bars and stay into bars. And I know we were just talking about your girlfriend at the time who helped you get in, but did you think about who these people are, and can we start talking about them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's one defining book.
Okay.
That changed everything and changed my career trajectory. There was, when I was working at the Ritz-Carlton, I was a wee young bartender, and it was like cocktails were just kind of coming together in DC. There was the Georgetown Ritz-Carlton had a mixologist, and he was doing mixology classes, and I was at the Ritz-Carlton on 22nd and M, and my F&B director was just like, hey, Kevin, can you start doing cocktails for the menu here? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, I make whatever people tell me to make. I can make classics, I can make shooters, and I can bartend really, 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 really fucking fast is my asset. But he was like, hey, make some drinks, and I started just infusing random shit into vodka and mixing it. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. But my director of beverage came to me one day and was like, gave me this book, and it was called The Sauce Guide by Simon Difford, and it was this paper bound book, very colorful with a lot of recipes, with a lot of ingredients in it. And that book I told this to Simon Difford when I saw him, was like, that book completely changed me, because I opened it up and I started reading ingredients I'd never heard of. Was like maraschino, green chartreuse, yellow chartreuse, like Advocate, like all these ingredients I'd never heard of because DC wasn't using them. So I was very, very curious, and I started asking, the veteran bartenders at the Ritz I worked at. No one knew anything. I started going to the nightclubs and asking. I even asked the bartender that was the mixologist at Georgetown all these questions. I was like, have you ever heard of these liquors, and where do we get them? How do we, like, what do they do? Like, have you heard these cocktails and this menu and the sauce guide? And no one knew anything. They're just, wow, that's a beautiful book. And I had all these questions, and no one could answer the questions for me. And that's when like the light kind of went off, and I was like, I need answers to these questions, and no one can answer them for me. And that's when I decided to leave DC, was because of that book. And I was like, I need to be in a city that is cocktail forward or in the cocktail revolution, and I need to be in a city that bartenders are using these ingredients for me to find out about them. So I did a bunch of research on different cities, and I chose the farthest one away from DC, which was San Francisco, and that's how I ended up in San Francisco the first time, was because I wanted all these questions answered. I packed a bag. I transferred my job from the Ritz-Carlton to the Ritz-Carlton here in San Francisco, got an apartment, had $300 in my pocket, and transferred over here and moved, and that was it.
So who was this beverage director, and where did he find this copy of Simon Difford's book in whatever year that was, 2005, 2006?
Yeah, I think that was like 2002 was when I was at the Ritz.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think I started the Ritz at 2001, and it was like 2002 that he gave me this book. I don't remember this gentleman's name, the F&B director, but I remember he was well-educated. He would give you almost in like this irky way that as a young bartender, you'd be like, hey, he'd be like, can you go grab a bottle of Dom Perignon for this guest? And he'd be like, do you know anything about Dom Perignon? I was like, no. And then he would give you all this information, even though I didn't ask about it, which is kind of like back in the day. And as a kid, I was like, I don't care. Just give me the bottle of Dom Perignon. But he was very educated. He was very passionate about knowing these things. And that's why he gave me that book. I don't remember his name, but because of him and that book was what caused that catalyst of curiosity with ingredients. But yeah, it was like, 2002, 2003 was that book, which is crazy because I remember, the Sauce Guide, because he changed it a couple times. I think Simon, the name of that book.
Right. So this is a funny thing about how we're running this project, where the reason that we reached out to you is because Sarah Ruiz told us to reach out to you. But the reason that we reached out to Sarah Ruiz is because Kapri Robinson told us to reach out to Sarah. And Kapri is from DC now, and DC has really jumped off in the last 25 years since you left. And so it's just funny that it's managed to come full circle in very early in this podcast project. We're already back in DC, and knowing that DC has grown so much in the last 25 years.
Oh my gosh, it's a completely different town. I sometimes, I try and go back as often as possible. Usually it's work which usually brings me back. My folks don't live there anymore. But yeah, I don't recognize it at times. When I grew up there, it was predominantly a nightclub driven town. Like, it was all about the nightclubs. It was all about the lounges and turn and burn. And now there's a lot more pubs and a lot more cocktail bars, and the culture is completely different. But the irony is a lot of those nightclub bartenders now own cocktail bars. So
you mentioned that you did a lot of volume bartending earlier in your career as well. Do you find that when you started getting interested in more esoteric cocktails, that the speed element helped you along in developing, like being able to make a 7-part cocktail quickly made a big difference when you were bartending?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think so. I think that steps of learning actually how to bartend in that type of atmosphere of like high volume, like the nightclub I worked at, I was a very, very, very fast bartender at the Ritz, and the first nightclub I got a job at was because one of our regulars, this Latin guy, had a nightclub, and all his employees were all female, like drop dead gorgeous, beautiful bartenders, beautiful cocktail servers. Actually, where I met my wife, ironically. Um, and he was just like, they're all great at making money, but they're not making drinks fast. We just want to get you to come and just make drinks fast. They're like, you don't even have to talk to people. Just make all the drinks fast. So I was this one guy working with this entire crew of female bartenders and floor servers that were all drop dead gorgeous and beautiful in Georgetown. And I just would make so much money because all these girls were making so much money in tips, and I just sit there and make drinks for like 10 hours. But I think it helps like with the mental like muscle memory and be able to know recipes really quick and adapt the recipes, and do those 12 parts, those recipes that are almost 12 steps or 6 steps. I think there's a lot of muscle memory and like almost a cognitive thing to be able to pick up a recipe pretty quick and understand how to make it. So I think it definitely helped me in my career to be able to be a fast bartender and make those drinks. Now it's just there's more show to it sometimes, and well now some bars are just pour overs too, so you don't even have to be fast. You just have to be fast to open a bottle and pour it out. But
So much batching and kegging that seemed really cool 10 years ago, and now I don't know if anyone actually knows how to make a drink. That sounds mean.
Yeah.
I didn't mean for that to sound mean.
No.
Whoops.
We could go down a rabbit hole.
Let's keep things positive. Who else would you say was like a mentor or a big influence for you in your bartending career?
There's a few. I mean, there's definitely. I have a couple in my head. I mean, there's another one who wasn't a bartender, but was a GM and a general manager that we opened, I think, three or four bars and restaurants in San Francisco, and his name is Matthew Meidinger. And he met me he was a GM of the Clock Bar when I was a young bartender when I went to work there. I think it's very understated about how much influence a GM can actually have on your career as a bartender. I think other bartenders, like you pick up, I got to work with a very talented team at Clover Club and PDT and very, very talented, awesome bartenders that I got to learn a lot from. But I think what Matthew taught me wasn't about bartending. It was more about empathy and patience and hospitality and guest interaction and humility as a GM, because he was an amazing GM. He was an amazing person as a maitre d', this awesome knack of being able to like turn people that were absolutely irate and mad at him, and then they'd turn around and be like regulars of him constantly, every single day, just to come and see him and have conversations with him. And so that knack of a GM is amazing as a maitre d'. But he also taught me a lot about finances that without him, again, I think, as a bartender opening up a bar on their own, not knowing anything about P&Ls or costing or projecting, like he taught me how to make projections and everything. And I think without him, I probably would not be in the place that I am now, financially responsible and able to run a profitable bar that's lasted 10 years, or profitable cocktail bars that have put me in that position to own something. So I think Matthew, I owe a lot of credit to in terms of like teaching me humility, teaching me numbers and preciseness and projection. So he's on the top, probably the top 5 people that influenced my career in general.
And you said that you'd opened a couple different spaces with him. At what point in the openings did you get involved? Was it like a day one, or was it they unlock the door and you're just jumping on the bar?
No, I think we were always either a year out or 6 to 9 months out on most of these projects.
Right.
I don't think I ever came onto a project right when the doors were opening. I think a lot of times people were trying to get you in on our payroll or talk to you within six months or 9 months of opening. And a lot of them had a good lead time on them. So allowed me a lot of time in terms of like planning and trying to figure out the bar and staffing, and a lot of time with Matthew to see what he was doing. I think, as a bartender, I was very inquisitive about what he was doing. And I asked a lot of questions, and I wanted to know in a very like competitive way. I wanted to be the best, but I wanted to be very well-rounded. I didn't want to just know things about cocktails. I wanted to know everything that was happening within the restaurant, within the bar. I wanted to know why things cost a certain way, what percentages you're looking at, why what the word NOI means, where you want your labor, what's a good labor, what's a good profit margin and everything. And I asked all those questions, and I made sure to create my own. I created my own spreadsheets, created my own P&Ls just to play with, to learn it, and ran back and forth with Matthew on them, learned how to write projections with them. So I think very early on, I was very in tune with what he was doing and wanting to know more.
That's great. Who else do you want to give a shout out to? Who else have you got in mind?
Obviously, Jim and Julie. I was very thankful for them to find some space for me when I moved to New York. Working with Julie's program was amazing. I think I always talk about Clover Club is that it taught me how to do cocktails in volume, because Clover Club was packed, and there was only 2 wells in Clover Club. So those 2 wells tended to the whole entire place. And there was one well in the back that was the parlor. But I remember we'd get our butts smacked over and over. And I remember I would always get nervous that if Julie jumped behind the bar while we're behind the bar to help us out, that we all somehow failed.
Right.
Or if she was on the path tasting drinks, I would just start scared shitless, because I was like, fuck. Now I got to really make my drinks right. But I think, Julie was awesome. I think the way she built the program and the accountability she gave the team, and how she trained the team and put together the menu, and that talent was absolutely amazing. I learned a lot from Julie and from Jim, and Jim's style of cocktails was something that I kind of adopted. I liked the real big style of culinary and chefs and food being integrated into the cocktails. So a lot of that style I kind of adopted as well from Jim and Julie, and just taking it to the next level in terms of my palate, and being in that New York City bar scene was it's cutthroat, but the community there was very welcoming, and a lot of good friends still there.
Mm-hmm. Do you have anyone that you're working with, whether it's at PCH or people you've met through AAPI Week, that you're working with that you would say are someone that you're mentoring currently?
That's hard. I find mentoring is I don't consider myself a mentor quite yet. I consider myself, maybe an influencer or a leader, and what I do can hopefully, what I do in my actions to hopefully inspire people to do things. I think, I work really. Probably the only other person I can think of that I work really close with, or 2 other people, or 3, I guess. Is Reese Alvarado, who's my partner with API, and he worked with us at PCH, and he's developed quite a career with Bacardi and the local scene here. Yeah. But we bounce a lot of ideas off each other, and there's a lot of respect. I think the other one's Francis, who's our GM now and partner with us. Francis was a day one with us at PCH. He's been with us through everything and thick and thin for 10 years. Through fires to rebuilding to the pandemic, he's been there, and I've seen his career and his goals grow for 10 years. He was with me 5 years prior to that at a couple bars I used to run and bartend at. So Francis, and someone else I'm working really closely with now is this young lady named Aleka Ross, who used to work for Hodling, a local company here, also from DC. And she came on board with my other bar, Kona's, and has done an exceptional job kind of turning the bar around in this climate of the financial district, but very driven, very community focused, very culturally focused, which I really enjoy, and very out there in the community, always making connections. And she has this really awesome trait and awesome skill that I sometimes envy, but it's an awe to watch. Is she's able to meet strangers, whether they're interested or people just come to the bar, and able to connect with them and somehow uplift them, because she's never talking about herself. She's always finding something about you and uplifting you within that conversation. And she creates those relationships really, really quickly. And it's something to be seen. It's very awesome. It's one of the reasons we work with each other right now, because she's an amazing talent.
It's very cool when you meet those people who naturally have a genuine interest in not just what's going on around them, but who the people are around them. Yeah.
And there's no fake news. She just enjoys it. She enjoys talking to people. She enjoys the culture. She enjoys experiencing life. And it's an envy that she can do it. And it's a special skill. And I've only seen it a couple of times with bartenders. She's obviously on the brand side and now kind of, I mean, she bartends for us now, but she's developed that cool knack. And I think that's just something with inherent in her that she's just grown up with and kind of cultivated. But she's an amazing person.
Kevin, we've been talking for a bit, but I wanted to ask you just a couple more questions. As mentioned, I talked to Sarah Ruiz, who mentioned your name, and she had a couple questions for you.
Oh, wow.
Can I ask you those questions?
Yeah, I missed Sarah so much. She was awesome.
So she sort of has a two-part question.
Basically, like, did you always believe in yourself? Even to like go deeper on that, like, how did you feel when you started to publicly rise? And did that humble you or challenge you or all of the above? Like, did you change anything you were doing based on the circumstances?
Those are great questions, Sarah. Damn.
Right?
Wow.
I told her that she should start her own podcast.
Yeah. Where did she get that? That's amazing. Jeez. I would have to go to journalism school to create questions like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, great question. What's the first one? Like, did I always believe in myself?
Did you always believe in yourself?
Yeah. I think everyone questions themselves what they do. I think the difference is the action, right? I think a lot of us second guess ourselves of what we want to do and what we want, and we think we're not prepared. And we have to prepare ourselves to be prepared to do the next step instead of just doing it. So I had confidence in who I am to do things, because it's a lot of stuff is just physical work for me, and I don't mind the work. I always say I'm here for the work and not for the praise, and I enjoy the work. I say my purpose in life is to do things, and I can work 16, 18-hour days and I don't bat an eye at it. I enjoy going through the process. I'm a very routine-oriented person, so I like the physicality of work. I played a lot of sports growing up, so I like that kind of grunt and that kind of rigor to go through things and knowing that I can go through it. I also compartmentalize things a lot really well. I don't really carry emotion too much into my business and what I do, so I keep things separate, which also helps with that believing in yourself. So I don't think there's a lot of self-doubt in what I can do. I guess, if that answers the question.
And then, the second half of that question is, once you started becoming successful, because you don't bat an eye at 16-hour days, once you started becoming successful, getting these awards, people are writing pieces about you, did that alter the way that you went about those 16-hour days?
No. I think we've never, and I particularly have never chased awards, and I think we try and kind of drive that ethos at the bar. I think early on, getting little like articles written about you was really cool. I think growing up, if you have an article written about you about sports or something, it's really cool to see your name in the paper. I don't think awards ever changed what we do or what I do, because it was just, I always thought things like that were very fleeting, because there's 2025 award, and then the next year there's a 26 award, and I never really caught on to those feelings, because for me it was always on to the next thing, right? It was like, cool, we got this acknowledgement, this award, it feels good, but for me it was always like, I want to do the next thing. I want to continue building this bar. I want to continue being with the team. I want to continue building the businesses. So it was never about this award being world's 50 best or being best American bartender. It was like, for me, it was the process of going through it and then on to the next thing. So it never changed my work at all. And I don't think that my day-to-day, it's still just a lot of work every single fucking day. It's a lot of work, and I'm hoping that one day it's less work. But the greatest thing of working for yourself is you get to choose what you do every single day. And I can never complain about my days, because I subject myself to everything I do every single day. So I can choose not to do those things, but I choose to go throughout all of them. But the words are nice and salt and pepper what you do, acknowledgement of what you do, but it should never be the driving force. At the end of the day, it's about the people and your business and the experiences. Those are who are paying your bills. If I could pay bills with the awards, then that'd be great.
Right.
We'd all be chasing the awards, because then I could take those plates and put them in and deposit them and be like, how much is this plate worth? Cool.
It's payroll
Got
for
payroll
2 months.
Yeah. But yeah.
So no pressure at all, and I know Sarah knocked it out of the park. But if you were going to ask a question, or rather get me to ask a question to Julie Reiner or Jim Meehan or your buddy Matthew Meldinger or Meidinger, what would you want to ask them?
Damn, now I got Sarah's questions stuck on my head. I think the burning question, I almost asked it to Julie. I was talking to Julie yesterday. Would be after you, gosh, how do I word this? It's like we're going on 10 years, and I'm having not trouble, but I'm trying to figure out, like, when you open a bar, you're like, all I want to do is open a bar, and you get the bar open, or you get your business open, and then your business is open, and then 3 years passes, 5 years passes, and you're like still doing everything. Maybe you expand your business and you open more stuff. My question is, like, when is it enough, or like what do you do what's next, right? You know, I think I asked this to Julie. Well, I kind of jokingly was just like, she called me and was like, hey, happy 10 years. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. I was like, I always wonder what the next thing is, right? You've gotten your bar for 10 years. You have your business for 10 or 20 years. Like you just keep doing the same thing over and over and over, or is there something else after that? And that's always my question. I was just like, what do you do? What's the next thing after you feel like, I was just like, now, you know, I've been a bartender, I've been a bar owner, I've done all these things, I've gotten to travel the world and do all these things, awesome stuff. And I was like, what should be the next thing that you're supposed to do? Is kind of my question that I try and find answers to. And that'd be a great question for both of them, because they've done so much in their lives, in their careers, and still continue to do things.
That's a solid question for sure. We've come to the point in a podcast where everyone is used to this one. Kevin, what are you working on now, and how do people find you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this year is a year of not opening any more things. So I think no more brick and mortars, no more projects. I think a lot of just concentrating on the businesses we have at hand, traveling less. I'd like to do less guest shifts, and just being at home, being in San Francisco and being home is where you can find me. I think it's always a checker on where you can find me between the four businesses, but you can, if I'm in town, I always still bartend Friday night, so I'm always behind the bar every Friday night. Is the one shift I hold down.
Yeah.
And people ask me why Fridays, and I say Fridays, no one emails after 5 o'clock, and it allows me, I can't bartend Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, but Fridays, everyone stops working and everyone enjoys the weekend, and it allows me to actually be in the well for an entire shift and bartend without having to worry about what's happening the next day. So always Friday nights.
It's nice when you get a few decades into bartending and bartending remains the best part of the job.
Oh, it's the best. I would say it's the easiest thing of my entire week, because you get to turn off, and it becomes about the people that are coming in. And not every shift and every service is the perfect service. You know, I have some bad services, but at least it's fun. And the thing that brought you into the industry that brings you joy, you can still do once in a while.
Yeah, that's a nice feeling. All right, Kevin, we're going to quit recording, but thank you so much for taking the time and sending such a nice email when I first bugged you in the middle of December and you were running Miracle.
No, thank you for the reach out. I appreciate it.
Thanks again, man. Have a good rest of your day.
You too, guys. Thank you.
It's so nice to hear from a real veteran like Kevin about how he keeps himself passionate and excited about what he does. His work schedule of being on the bar Fridays is something I think a lot of successful bar owners should consider. Bartending, after all, is the best part of being a bartender. Please like and subscribe to Branching Out and share on whatever platform you're listening on. And if you're listening to this, there's a pretty good chance that you work in something bar related. And if that's the case, make sure you follow Bartender Atlas. We are mostly on Instagram at Bartender Atlas. A quick note though, based on some feedback that we've gotten lately, there's no level of bartender that's excluded from Bartender Atlas. Maybe you have no clue what the hell Kevin and I were just talking about, or maybe you've been running internationally acclaimed bar programs for 15 years. No matter what, I promise you, being on Bartender Atlas will not hurt your career, plus, it's free. Branching Out was grown by me, Josh Lindley, and the crew here at Action Pact Studios in Toronto. Engineering and production by Jesse Colburn and Aaron Verdonk, music by Aaron Verdonk, and I will talk to you soon.